Cooking by Moonlight, and I'm here today to show you how to make a pumpkin bundt cake. To make our pumpkin bundt cake, we're going to start by adding sugar right into our mixer. I have the paddle attachment on. I love pumpkin cake. I think it's absolutely delicious. I love the spices and the flavors. So to start, we're going to put in a cup of packed brown sugar. To our cup of brown sugar, we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of white sugar. It seems like a lot of sugar, but this is actually going to make a really large cake. All right, now that all of our sugar's in there, we're going to add in a cup of Greek yogurt. This is one of my tricks when making cakes to keep the oil out. Some people use applesauce instead. I think applesauce gives it kind of a funny texture and not as rich of a flavor. All right, after you've put your Greek yogurt in, you're going to add in 1 can of pumpkin. This is a 16-ounce can of pumpkin. You want to be really careful that you get solid pack pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. Pumpkin pie filling has a lot of stuff in it already. Some milk, lots of sugar, lots of flavor. Here we want just the complete vegetable pumpkin in a can. All right. Now that I have my pumpkin in there, I'm going to add in 2 eggs and 1/4 cup of canola oil. You could use vegetable oil or grapeseed oil. Anything that doesn't have a flavor here would be great. Don't substitute olive oil or your cake's going to taste like olive oil. Now that you have all that in there, you're going to turn your mixer on and let it mix just enough to get everything all incorporated, and then we'll start again. All right, I'm just going to scrape down the bottom of the bowl and make sure that all the sugar is getting mixed in there. And one more time. All right, that looks perfect. Now I'm going to add in my dry ingredients. For my dry ingredients, I'm going to start with 3 cups of flour. I told you it was going to be a big cake. And I've used all-purpose flour here. I think it gives the cake a really nice texture. Okay, now that we have our flour in, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie filling. If you don't have pumpkin pie filling, you can do a teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, and that'll give you a pretty similar taste. All right, I'm going to turn this on just long enough to get everything to mix up, and while I do that, I'm going to grease a bundt cake pan. And now I'm just going to pour all the batter right into that pan. It's a pretty thick batter. And we'll pour that in there. Again, it's pretty thick batter, so do your best to get it in there evenly and then spread it around with your spatula afterward, because you do want it in there pretty even so that the cake bakes nicely. It's not going to look like a lot of batter when you put it in there, but it's going to rise up and fill up that whole tin. And I'm just going to smooth this out with my spatula. And you want to wipe down anything that you get on the edges, or else those pieces in particular will burn. You can just use your finger to wipe it right off. All right, and this is ready to go. I'm going to put it in a 350-degree oven for about 50 minutes. It really does take quite a while to bake. You can tell it's done by putting a cake tester in, and it should come out clean. After your pumpkin bundt cake has been taken out of the oven and cooled completely, this will take at least an hour because it is such a dense cake, you're going to take a cutting board or even the tray that you're going to serve it on, put it right on top of that bundt cake, and flip it over. Now, if you greased your pan like you were supposed to, it should, with just a little tap or two, pop right out. All right, and there's our pumpkin bundt cake. I'm going to take a little bit of powdered sugar, and I have a sifter here, and I'm just going to dust the top of it with powdered sugar. You could make a glaze if you wanted. I've made a glaze with like a cup of powdered sugar, a couple tablespoons of milk, and some pumpkin pie spice, and it was really good. I personally think that cake has such a great flavor on its own that I don't like to put a glaze on. I just put powdered sugar and serve it as is because it is delicious. I'm just going to cut a nice size piece for myself because this is one of my most favorite desserts, especially when you have it just a little bit off season. All right, and there you go, an absolutely delicious pumpkin flavored bundt cake. I'm Houck from Cooking by Moonlight, and this has been how to make a pumpkin bundt cake.